All right, everyone. The New York Times has entered obsessive stalker territory with regards to Trump's taxes. They're saying, well, we managed to obtain some Trump tax information for what was it, the last few decades or something. And they're like, he operated at a business loss. He operated at a loss and didn't pay income taxes for years. I'm thinking to myself, Trump has already explained this several years ago. Under the tax structure that existed at the time, and I think they've rearranged it now in the last 10 years or something. Under the tax codes at the time, the way they were, it was possible to have high income and still technically on paper operate at a loss because of business write-offs and things like that. It was actually possible because inflation, depreciation, all sorts of things could figure in. And so it was possible for Trump to make a lot of money and pay nothing. What's the problem here? It's not outside of the law. You can think that that tax system is fucky, and of course it was, but that's the thing. Most business people at the time took advantage of the tax code in order to pay as little as possible, wouldn't you? Bernie Sanders sure did. His tax rate wasn't that high considering his particular amount of income. You look at these tax returns released by politicians. You know what I'm more concerned about? I'm not that concerned about the fact that a person made a lot of money, albeit dubiously. And it's not really dubious. Trump didn't design the tax code. I'm not worried about the fact that he's in office. I am slightly concerned about the fact that so many people who apparently don't make any other money, as far as like a day job or something, end up having $100 million after a few years in the Senate, despite the fact that they only have a few $100,000 a year in actual income. I'm kind of concerned about that fact. Where's all their money coming from? It's coming from speaking at Goldman Sachs dinners and stuff like that. And that's much more concerning to me. Trump, he doesn't give a shit about their money. They can't pay him enough to do what they want because he's already a billionaire. There are a few advantages to having a very rich president. Bribing him, a little bit difficult. Then, of course, they have to resort to blackmail, but apparently there's nothing to blackmail him on. The Mueller report was so fucking thorough. His probe was so expansive, and with Senate Judiciary and now House Intel and stuff, they've investigated every aspect of his life. Now they have to go through old tax material that was already available that Trump already explained 2 fucking years ago because of the New York Times obsessing over it. This is Mueller probe light. This is what they're doing right now, the Democrats and their allies in the legacy media. What they're doing is trying to crucify Trump's ability to function. Now that the Mueller probe is over, there's nothing criminal there. There's no obstruction, there's no collusion. They don't even want to talk about that again. They don't even want to bring up the idea of Russia. Have you noticed that they haven't been talking about that at all? Because it's poisonous to them ideologically at this point. Now they'd rather talk about him supposedly being a tax cheat. But that's not cheating. It's not cheating to take advantage of the perfectly legal existent tax code of that era, which was heavily slanted towards big businesses being able to take a huge amount of write-offs so they could make tens or hundreds of millions technically, but on paper be impoverished. It was possible to get things to zero out to pay no taxes. And meanwhile, Trump himself is deriving a personal income separately, paid normal taxes on it, that we don't have because he's been under audit for the last 20, 30 years. That's fundamentally what this boils down to. I'm not sure why anyone gives a damn, though. Why don't the Democrats develop a platform? Tell me what your alternative to Trump's platform is. I know what Trump stands for. He wants to build a wall on the border. He wants an infrastructure deal that may or may not go forward. The Democrats appear to have struck a deal with him ahead of the congressional Republicans. Now he sees if he can ram it down McConnell's throat, basically. That's his next big problem. That's his next big hurdle. Watch, the congressional Republicans will stymie their own infrastructural spending bill and throw Trump under the bus, probably. That's probably what will happen, unless he sweetens the deal with them, gives them something. I'm not seeing what he can give McConnell to get it to come to a floor vote. Either that or it might be strictly ideological. We may see something unanimously passed, more or less. That'd be a miracle at this point. By the way, there's a huge amount of pollen on my computer, so distracting me slightly. Now, my throat may sound a little bit scratchy. Allergy season began yesterday. I woke up feeling like I had a cold, and it's like, wonderful. It's springtime in Vermont. Yeah, it's finally warm. Oh, achoo, fuck me, basically. Yeah, Trump used the existing tax. He already explained the concept of inflation and depreciation as applied to taxes at the time. And then he has his own income. I don't care. The Democrats need to buckle down, put on your big boy pants and start acting like a political party as opposed to a bunch of college-age debate team kids that, are at a frat party getting drunk. because that's really what the Democrats appear to be functioning as. There's no leader, there's no common ideology. Most of the people in the party don't seem to have a platform. We know what Bernie Sanders stands for. Free shit. In other words, higher taxes. Okay, we've got his platform. It's just a weird one. And Warren, we kind of know what she stands for, which is basically whatever the cool kids are saying, I agree with you, and then I'll stab you in the back if elected. And we know what Clinton wants. Her ideology is, hey, whatever's good for me. I want to sell some more books, dude. Even though now their speaking tour, their apology tour has been grinding down badly and drawing crowds of tens of people. Hillary Clinton and her husband, what's his name? The dude that we've scrubbed out of the history books because of the Me Too movement. Preemptively, we threw him under the bus too. The Democratic Party needs to form a platform. Give me 3 or 4 basic things that you stand for. And I don't mean vague platitudes like, oh, we stand for progress. We stand for family-friendly stuff. We stand for good things. No. I mean something specific. What, if elected, what specifically is the DNC going to push on the candidate that it got elected, regardless of their personal ideology? What's the Democratic Party's overall message? Because right now, the Republicans are united. They've got a message, and it's largely behind Trump. Secure the border. No more gun control. We'd like more tax reform. Replace the ACA, although it may or may not happen. Foreign policy is only vaguely interventionist at this point. What do the Democrats offer as a counter? I want to know what specifically you will do. Now, I know this puts me in a minority of voters because I actually care about the on-the-ground effects of platform, and it's not just partisan or charismatic. Most people vote based on the candidate's performance at a debate, who debated better, which is asinine. Who cares how they debate? And Trump will win anyway, probably because his opponent is likely to be Biden, who will hang himself up on stage verbally. It'll be very funny, and he might be demented at the time, and the Democrats will lose. Or partisan loyalty. Like half the country is locked into thinking Democrat and Republican are fundamentally different. But how? The Democrats haven't given me a platform to differentiate from what Trump's saying. I like the idea of lower taxes and defending the border. I like the idea about asserting ourselves on a world stage, non-violently, usually, preferentially. I like the idea of having a president who has been a successful businessman and not just a politician all his life. You're offering me Joe Biden, probably, or Bernie Sanders. The two front runners have never held a regular job. They've been in politics since the 70s. Both of them have. Biden has served under what was it? 7 different administrations in some capacity, I think it was? Some crazy amount like that? He's just been a politician for virtually all of his life. Bernie Sanders has only ever been a politician as far as something he held successfully long term. He never held a successful job for more than a year or so before that. He's got less real world work experience than a lot of NEETs do. So, what are you offering me? How are they supposed to manage an economy? Bernie Sanders, he's already told me enough to know that he can't. As far as Joe Biden, he seems stubbornly opposed to even forming a platform. All he does is he gets up on stage, says, orange man bad, aha. And he knows, by the way, that can get him the primaries right there. All he has to do is be the non-fiscally far-left Democrat that nonetheless is a firebrand against Trump, and he'll have 20-30% of the party, sucking his toes, basically. That's what the Democrats have devolved into. They're also going back to becoming the party of the KKK in the most literal Confederate sense. They're becoming a bunch of states' writers. Oh no, don't you dare dump those illegal immigrants in our sanctuary cities and states. Orange man bad. We say we want the border erased, but we don't want them in our community. Not our lily white far left gated community suburb with Starbucks Marxists. An appreciation for jazz night and, Starbucks on every corner and Che Guevara shirts made in China by child slaves. Bunch of fucking hypocrites. Every goddamn one of them. So yeah, I have a little bit of contempt at the moment for the New York Times. Above the smear pieces against the independent media. The New York Times is just really fucked up. And almost nothing they say is true. Very interesting. That's about all. Peace out.